Hey, I'm Luke and welcome to my channel. Today I am revisiting the MAC-A-GEDDON Mac SE30 that I was working on a couple of weeks ago at the MAC-A-GEDDON event up at the Computer Museum Society up in Sydney. After I got back from Sydney, I did a quick short video where I used my tech step to actually test this, and it all tested out perfectly well. But today I want to revisit it a little bit because I want to have a look at the logic board and the new capacitors I put on it and see whether they are all good, because I only did it with my naked eyes without any sort of microscope, so it was kind of hard work. And also I want to try and fix the analog board because it's got some video display problems. So stick around and let's fix this Mac SE30. Okay, so it's been a couple of weeks since the MAC-A-GEDDON event, so now I think it's time to look back at this and try and finish the repairs that I started a couple of weeks ago. Obviously, on the day at the MAC-A-GEDDON event, basically we got it completely recapped on the logic board, and it worked perfectly. The display, the actual logic board seems to be fine, and then, as I said before, when I came back I used my tech step on it and it also tested perfectly well and everything good. Now the main problem I think is more around the analog board. So if I just turn it on, you'll see as it starts to turn on, you'll get the horizontal sort of the line just because the camera refresh is not quite in line. But that isn't the problem. It's more, there's actually some horizontal lines on the actual screen that are trying to collapse in. And sometimes when you're using it, it actually starts to get a bit brighter along this very top line. And yeah, like when I first powered it on at the MAC-A-GEDDON event, it was collapsed into a single line. Turns it off straight away because that can damage your CRT. But subsequent test and actually like carefully testing it by turning like the brightness all the way down, giving it power and then slowly turning it back on, it seemed to come right, and it has been pretty stable. I haven't seen it do a horizontal line since that first thing, but as you can see there, it's doing it at the moment. It's quivering. It's almost like it is trying to collapse. A lot of people have recommended that is due to solder joints on the analog board. Might be. Generally speaking though, like, it doesn't seem to be affected by tapping it. It doesn't seem to make it worse or better. Like, it's pretty rock solid at any time. But definitely I've noticed sort of the longer it's on, the more it starts to get unstable. Like, it is actually literally trying to collapse there at the moment. You can see it's actually quite a lot brighter along the very top. I've actually taken a good video of that, so I'll insert that over this video. But yeah, it's actually like, it's half, oh, there you go. It was halfway down the file word there, and then it just snapped back. So it's definitely got some analog board problems. So that's one of the things I want to look at today and see whether we can solve that. And the other thing that I want to look at is I want to have another look at the logic board, just because I did that with my naked eyes, replacing those capacitors up there at the MAC-A-GEDDON event. That was hard work. So I want to use my microscope just to have a look at the work that I did and make sure those capacitors are on okay. Everything tested okay, so I'm pretty confident that I don't need to redo them, but I just want to double check them. So that's where we're at. So today, I think the first thing I want to try and do is have a look at the analog board and see whether it does have any dry or cracked solder joints that are causing this. And we'll go from there. Now, one of the other things that I have referred to in regards to what could be wrong with this analog board is I've had a look at this book, The Dead Mac Scrolls. Very handy because it basically, if you've got a problem, it outlines kind of what the problem you're sort of seeing and what is the likely cause. And it does it for all of the early Macs. So let's have a look at the index here. So we've got early Macs, so that's like the Mac Plus, Mac 128. Mac 512, Mac SE, SE30, Mac 2, floppy drives. So it's a handy book, and I don't know, when did this first come out? Dated 1992. So it's a useful resource. Obviously, you can't 100% trust that it could be the cause of the problem, because obviously this was written in 1992. The faults that they were finding back in those days quite different to the faults that we're finding today. Like, this wouldn't necessarily refer to leaky capacitors as an example. But if I go to page 165, whoops, I type it right. This is the Mac SE30 section. Obviously, if I go back a little bit, it's talking about a vertical line collapse with the video display. Then it's talking about this one here. So this is the fault that we were seeing here. So it's saying, after a short while, the video display collapses into a horizontal line. Tapping the left side of the cabinet temporarily restores the video or causes it to flash. That tapping doesn't seem to be what we're seeing. But this obviously refers to, the problem is a cracked solder joint. And particularly, it's telling you to check and resolder pin 1 on the vertical yoke. So I think we want to look at that anyway, and probably, just to be honest, just for the sake of completeness and making sure that it's just not a dodgy connection, resolder those. There's another option here where it basically says, starts up a normal video, does not appear. Instead, a very bright horizontal line, same thing. Problem happened out of the blue. Display had previously not been intermittent. Then it's saying the problem is with the analog board, and it's saying to replace the TDA 1170 IC, which is basically doing the vertical deflection. That's on the analog board in location U2. Now, I have a spare one of those. So this is the beastie here. Heatsink that it's got, I guess. I have pulled this from a working analog board, that one up there. I've just borrowed it because I want to potentially, if the resoldering doesn't work, I want to try and put this on here and see. This one works fine. And these apparently you can buy, but I don't really want to go out and buy one unless I need to, because I'm gonna have to get it from the US. So that is a potential option of where the fault could be as well. And that's really all this book talks about in regards to that. So I think the next step really is to open her up, discharge the CRT, and dismantle the analog board and remove the screws and take the power supply out of it, and have a look at the solder joints on the side of it and see whether they need further work. All right, so I have actually already unscrewed this, so this should be relatively easy to just pop the top off, and it's taken the shield with it. And so I'm just going to remove my blue SCSI, which is just temporarily sitting in here. I'm going to obviously need to install a proper mount to actually secure that in there. But from the event the other day, I just left it roaming there loose. All right, let me just turn this around. I'm going to discharge the CRT just because we are going to be stuffing around with that analog board, and that is not something we want to do. Obviously, whenever you're playing with one of these, make sure you know what you're doing before you do anything to do with the insides. So I'm just going to tap there and discharge it. There's no charge in it. Thankfully, these are generally pretty reliable and discharge when they get turned off. But you never can be sure, so it's better to be safe than sorry. And always discharge it. I think I was really lucky with this this computer when I got it at the MAC-A-GEDDON event, because it is in really good condition. Like, even looking at the analog board, it doesn't look dirty. Like, I imagine, I think they told us that these were all from Telstra, who is a telco here in Australia. And it makes me wonder whether this has spent its life in a comms cupboard, in a rack, dust-free environment. They obviously removed the hard drive, but otherwise, it's like everything was very clean. Now, in contrast, some of the ones that were at the event were quite dirty inside. This one, I definitely hit the jackpot with, as far as like just the general cleanliness of it. All right, so I'll disconnect the floppy, and now I want to get the logic board out of the way so that I don't hurt it. So I'm just going to have my hand in here and gently push the little tag, there we go, and release it. Out it comes, and we'll just release that and pop that out. There we go. Here's our analog board again. Looking nice and clean still. Yeah, very, very happy with that. This was one of the earlier analog boards as well, because it's got a bodge wire that's obviously done in the factory that runs down from this chip over here. So, and it's got one of the socketed CPUs. So it's obviously quite an early SE30 logic board. It's dated 1988. So we've detached that, and we've removed the, oops, I didn't put that back in. I removed the grounding wire off the case, but then I failed to put the screw back in. So we'll just insert that back in there. Now, holding this in is 3 screws, and effectively this power supply, which is a separate unit, which is held in by these 4 screws. Normally, I think you can get the whole thing out. Normally though, I remove these screws, and that just means it's a little bit easier to essentially lever it out of the case. So let's just take these power supply ones out. Oops. The little metal washer that was around it just broke in half. It just completely fell apart. I don't know why that happened. Just have to make sure there's no little shards of metal lying on the underside of this cover here now. The other ones are coming off all right. There's just that one must have been cracked. Yeah. The rest of these are coming out fine. And then these 3 screws. Oh wow. That one. That one, that little metal shield will come off now as well. And the last one is this single one down here. Interestingly enough, geez, let's tight this one. I find you can sometimes tell whether someone's been inside one of these, because when they're being come from the factory, they only have 3 screws in them. So those 2 and this top one up here. Never really the one down in this bottom hole here. It's always empty. but sometimes if you find one in there, it probably means someone's been in there before. Okay. Put all those screws in my little case. I don't lose them. I'm just going to get rid of these metal shards that fell off so they don't end up back inside touching something they shouldn't be touching. Okay, so now let's sit the beastie back up on its side, top place. Everything's now just a bit loose. We're just going to disconnect the yoke cord here. It's a bit yellow and sticky. Yuck. I don't know why that is. So definitely could do with a clean. It's weird. It's kind of got this yellowy gunk on it. Okay, now I just levy this out a little bit. And then the whole thing just get the brightness control out. Should just come out like that, and there we go, free of the case. Sit there for a second. Yeah, it's got just some weird gunk, so that's definitely going to need a bit of a clean. So maybe it is just a dry connection or something like that. You can actually get new versions of these. I don't think this one needs to be replaced. It just needs a bit of a clean. I don't understand why what that gunk is. Anyway, nothing else looks weird. Again, like even this fan is not very dusty. So this was definitely living its life in a dust-free environment. Okay, detach that. There's our power supply. What do we got here? We've got an Aztec model number 699-5047. Now, I've had one of these previously before that had all leaky capacitors in it. Now, the voltages I'm getting from this one look pretty good. Obviously, as I said, the voltages on this look pretty good, so I don't think we need to worry too much about that power supply at the moment. What we're going to do now is get rid of these little plastic inserts that are holding in, just push them back out of the way. Oops, fell out. I reckon clean this P1 connector. Also check its solder joints. I'm just going to check the solder joints on this U2 vertical deflection thing. There we go. We'll go from there. All the capacitors look pretty good. Generally the capacitors on these analog boards pretty reliable, so you don't necessarily need to recap them unless there's obvious signs of damage or problems. One more, but that could be something in stealth mode there. There's definitely no signs of any capacitor leakage from here. So yeah, there's no signs of any capacitor leakage on top of the board. Sometimes these can be problematic, but again, this one looks pretty good. You can see here, it's got some sort of heat damage there. Doesn't look like there's any crack joints there, but I think it could benefit from a reflow. That's the base of the U2 chip, and it also looks okay. I think what I'm going to do now is reflow these, put a little bit of flux on them, clean it all, clean the other side of that. I might reflow these just to be on the safe side, although I don't really think they're going to need it. And then we'll test it again and see whether that has helped it at all. Okay, so what we've done is I've gone through and resoldered those connectors there on the P1. I also did the TDA 1170, vertical deflection IC. So I've redone that one as well, just to see if that helps at all. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to put this back in and not fully put it all back together, but enough that I can test it. So power supply goes in. And then finagle that brightness control into position. I just need to plug the power supply back into the analog board. There we go. And then this should just sit neatly on its little holes there. I've got some already sprayed contact cleaner, electrical contact cleaner into these. I'm just going to do it again as I plug it into the analog board, just to make sure, just a little bit of a squirt in all of them. Just make sure it's making a good connection. All right, so that's plugged in. Turn this around. So that now is plugged back in there. We need to reattach that, like that. This is the few things I need to put in place before we can turn this on. So one of those is the grounding wire. So that can go in there. I'll attach the... Actually, I'm just going to clean this as well because it's old and sticky. I don't think this was a problem before. I should point out that the obviously on the MAC-A-GEDDON weekend, I did try this analog board. Sorry, I did try this logic board in another Mac up there, and it worked fine. And I have also off camera today put the logic board in one of my other SE30s that I've got here, and again the picture is rock solid. So definitely the vertical collapse problem is something to do with this analog board. All right. Now I've cleaned that, but what we need to do is just put a bit of fresh dielectric grease on it. Actually, I should just wipe down on the actual CRT as well. So this will make a good, nice, sticky connection. Just a little bit it needs all around the outer edge of this rubber. What else do we need to plug in here? Nothing else is critical. Oh, actually, we need to put this grounding wire back on down here as well. There's a couple of ways I can do this now. I can put the logic board back in, or I can try running it with the logic board out of the case, which is probably what I'm going to do. I'll turn it this way. Now obviously I haven't put the shield back on this. Actually, one thing I will put an extra screw in just on the side of the analog board here, just so that it's properly grounded as well. One screw will be enough. I'll just put the little shield back on. Now what I can do is I've got this ATX extension cord. And it's got this whole extended ATX, but I don't need the extension part. And then it just basically plugs, it actually fits quite neatly, so it doesn't use, it's obviously longer than the sockets here, but if I put it over that side there, the overhang is just on this side, and that is the correct way that it goes in. Just so we've got a chime, I've got an external speaker, so I've got this little speaker hooked up here that I'm just going to basically directly attach, and it magnetizes nicely to the metal chassis there. And that's basically all we need. I'm not going to plug this blue SCSI in yet until we see whether this is actually even going to work. You can turn the power cable off, make sure it's off at the power point. Let's plug that in. Now, I've got the live side facing there, so I've got to be very careful not to touch anything there. But now we'll see whether this is still doing vertical scan problem. All right, so we'll turn power switch on and give it power from the power point. May have fixed it. Oh, maybe not. I think it has fixed it actually. I'm definitely not seeing the weird collapsing that it was trying to do before. So it probably was just a bad connection with that socket there. Well, with a hard drive in there, and that like that. Just going to sit that there, very ad hoc. I'm going to use my K-Back vintage voltage checker, and if I can just move the board a little bit so I can plug that in. I'm just going to put that over the side there just so I can see what voltages we're getting on the board. All right, everything looks again a bit haphazard here, so I've got to be careful what I'm touching, but let's give it some power again. Chime in, so we've got 11.7 on the 12 volt rail and 4.57. So the voltage is maybe a little bit low. I can definitely still see a line there, but I think that is literally just burning on the CRT. So I reckon this Mac had this image with the menu bars basically permanently on. Okay, there's definitely some flickering going on still. But interestingly enough, no now collapsing like it was doing, and those sort of ghosty lines that it was doing are also gone as well. It's definitely a lot more solid than it was. I'm not seeing the ghosting lines that it was doing previously. And like the collapsing of the top, how it was sort of starting to go in, seems to have stopped as well. So definitely there's obviously something going on with that, those connections. I've got these plastic CRT adjustment tools. I'm just going to slightly prod the side of the board just to see if we get anything. Or any sign of I'm prodding right around those solder joints that I've just redone. It looks pretty solid. Okay, so that might have been the problem. Well, not might have been, probably was the problem. Well, that's good. Getting that U2 chip off is a complete bugger. So that's looking quite good. Obviously the scan line that you can see there is just the CRT with the camera, but actually I can't see that in real life. I don't have a mouse plugged in. I'm just going to have to turn it off like that. All right, what I'm going to do is just put it back together now and then run another test. Okay, there we go. It is now all mostly back together. I'm just going to put that shield back on the bottom. I haven't completely fixed the safety shield onto the side yet. I just put two of the little black clips that hold that in place, just in case I need to go back in there easily. I can get easier access without needing to try and get them out again. We've run it now for a while and see how stable it is. So, see? Looks pretty good. So there you go. Dodgy connection was all that was. I actually have a working theory that maybe someone at some point has tried to fix this same problem, and that's what that gunk was that I was cleaning out of that that connector there, the P1, because it was almost like it was a flux residue or something like that. So I wonder whether someone's put some contact cleaner or something in there to try and clean it up, when actually probably what it really needed was resoldering. Yeah, it looks pretty good. It's a nice clean CRT as well. Like, I mean, that's the brightness is up on maximum, so it's possible the brightness is maybe a little low on the actual board. I'm just going to get one of my CRT adjustment tools and just try and turn that. Well, that's turned it down. You want it about, so when you turn it up that high, now I can see scan lines down there, so that's a bit too high. You generally just want it to be up on maximum, and you don't want to be able to see the scan lines, which is about there. And then we can turn that down a little bit. So that's kind of maximum. And that's completely off. That looks really good. I'm going to call that potentially fixed. But what we'll do now is let that run for a while, and I'll keep an eye on it and make sure we don't see that weird collapsing thing happening again. And then the next thing I want to test is have a look at the logic board under the microscope and just check those capacitors that I installed and make sure they look good, pretty good. But so far, pretty confident that we're in good state here. I probably also should service the floppy drive. I haven't actually tried to put a floppy disk in this Mac. Let's just see if I have a potentially okay to go to science floppy disk. Handy. This one's labeled okay. Oh, look at that. It works. I've got the PRAM tool on here that allows you to make settings to the PRAM directly. And Tattletech, which will just run a whole bunch of system diagnostics for us. Well, not diagnostics, will just tell us a bunch of stuff about the Mac. Looking good. And maybe that floppy drive doesn't even need servicing. Let's see whether the eject motor works. Oh. Ejected and it sounded okay. Again, with the cleanliness of this Mac, the floppy drive is probably in pristine condition internally as well. Although the eject motor cogs often break, but I don't even think I need to service this. That's amazing. Like I generally don't use floppy disks very often now in these. Oh, there we go. No, it just broke. Oh, that was the cog. The cog just gave way. Okay, definitely needs to be serviced. And now it's stuck. Oh dear. Let's just shut that down for a second. Okay, so that is what happens when the cog gives way. So floppy drive may not need servicing, and I'd say, like I said, I reckon it's pretty clean inside there, but unfortunately, the cogs, I don't think cleanliness matters for them. Okay, so what you're seeing here now is I actually needed to then get the floppy drive out of the Mac. So I basically have to dismantle, take the logic board out of the Mac, detach the housing unit that's holding the floppy drive in, and effectively dismantle the floppy disk drive in order to get the floppy disk out that was stuck in there. It was effectively the locking mechanism that holds the disk in had kind of half got stuck, and because the disk hadn't properly ejected, because it sort of got stuck halfway through. So I managed to get it out and effectively then had to service the disk drive. So the good news is it's now been several days since I last recorded that last section, and the Mac I have ran for quite a few hours over those days. Probably in total over the last few days, probably has been running for a full 24 hours. The logic board, analog board, sorry, is running really well. I'm not seeing any major problems. Occasionally you get a flicker, and you do sometimes get a bit of a weird geometry thing where it looks like it's not perfectly square, but it's very intermittent. And I haven't been able to pin exactly what it might be. So there could still be some other stuff that needs to be done there, but for the moment, I'm relatively happy and just closely monitoring that. I might end up looking again a bit more closely at some of the capacitors on that board, or actually try another power supply in it at some point to see whether it's actually a fault with the power supply. The voltages I'm getting out of the power supply are pretty good. You can also see since that last section where I was just working on floppy disk, I've got the floppy disk back in there now. It's working, and it is going in really nicely. Ignore the flickering there. Floppy disk comes up and jacks out nicely. I've done a short video, YouTube Shorts video on the repair of that floppy disk. So check that one out. I've also 3D printed a new hard drive mount that isn't as big as this metal one. So I now have the blue SCSI sitting nicely in there as well. Nothing is 100% screwed back together here yet. I've still got to do that because now I need to move on to the very last part of this, which is, as I said, I want to inspect the logic board. One thing I have noticed by running this Mac for extended periods of time is when I come back into the workshop after a few hours, there's that sort of fishy capacitor smell. So I think that's the remains of some of the electrolyte from the old capacitors on the logic board. When that board heats up, when it's been on for a while, it starts to put out that fishy smell. So I definitely want to inspect the work that I did at the MAC-A-GEDDON event. I want to put the logic board in my ultrasonic cleaner to give it a good clean and hopefully get the remains of that electrolyte off, and hopefully it means that smell goes away. Because if it's not that, then it's actually capacitors in the power supply that are making that smell. But I've had a bit of a smell round of things after it's been on for a while, and I think it's coming from the logic board. So that's it for this video today. I think I'm going to pause here and I'll do another video where I do that work on the logic board and also put all this properly back in inside there and make sure it's all nicely connected up. And then we'll see how it goes. So that's all for today. Thank you very much for watching. Please do like the video, leave any comments down below if you're interested, any feedback on anything that I've done here. Happy to have a chat to you guys. And yeah, watch out for the next part of this video where I'll actually do the inspection of the logic board under the microscope and make sure the repairs that I did up in Sydney are really good and give it a good clean. So that's all for today, and thanks for watching. I'll talk to you soon. See yous.